Hey there folks, Andre the Game Idea Guy here, and we're going to disseminate a little bit of misinformation regarding the Nintendo Switch 2. Now, before getting deep into the discussion, I also have to go ahead and, put myself on the hot seat for a moment, because I was unintentionally spreading possible misinformation. Simply because I read something in plain text, I saw that two things were separated in said text, which made me believe that those two things being separated in said text meant that they were not combined in the package. And that is Nintendo Switch game plus Nintendo Switch 2 upgrade pack. If you see includes Nintendo Switch game plus Nintendo Switch 2 upgrade pack, generally you're going to think, okay, that means that there's a Switch 1 game card in there, and that means that there's a separate slip for the upgrade pack. You would need to put the Nintendo Switch game card in the Switch 2, then apply the upgrade pack to it. I was wrong. Or at least apparently I was wrong based on different reports that are coming from different customer services for Nintendo, which we have in Nintendo US and Nintendo UK, telling people basically, no, it's just the game on a single cart, which would mean that it's a Nintendo Switch 2 game card, not a Nintendo Switch game card. So, being consistent and talking about the things that I talk about, I was incorrect. At least that's what it looks like. So for now, I'm making sure that I rectify what I said. I know I was very loud and boisterous about it, so I had to make sure I put this on Front Street too. And it had to be the first thing I talked about, because it wouldn't be genuine of me if I decided to go ahead and omit that and then talk about everything else I'm going to talk about. All right, everybody got that? We're good. Now we're going to move forward on to the next thing. And that is that people keep talking about Nintendo Switch 2 games being $90 USD. They are not, at least not currently. If that changes, I have no idea. I don't know how things are going to look going forward, but at current, that is false information. And if you have to add in tax to make up the difference, that is a false equivalency, because not everywhere in the US tax is the same. We don't have the same tax rates, so you can't necessarily do that. You can't stack on taxes and say, well, it's this much. Unless you're going to say that it is specifically that much for you when you make your purchase. And sometimes, again, that's not going to be the case. Heck, in Europe or UK, wherever that image that Jeff Keighley decided to share came from, it was what, $79.99, and I think that was pounds, or it was either pounds or euros. I don't know the symbols. It was $79.99 digitally, and then $89.99 physically. That's where everybody got this $90 thing coming from. Forgetting that equivalence, that would be, over there digital would be about 90-ish, and physical would be about 100 when converted to USD. Over there, it's more expensive. Over here, it's cheaper. So, that's where that information came from. It was Jeff Keighley was one of the first ones to pop up with that. Then several other news outlets after him popped up with it. No, that is incorrect. That is completely incorrect. That is not right, especially currently. At the moment, that is not the proper information. So, let's get off of this, because it's been corrected multiple times over and people seem to ignore it. I don't care if you dislike a certain platform, but if you're going to be mad about something, be mad about the right reasons. Like, don't say, oh, he kicked me in the shin. Well, no, he really didn't kick you in the shin. He bumped your shoulder on accident while he was walking across the street. And he ain't do nothing to you. He apologized and kept on going. But you're mad at him for bumping you. So you escalated into he intentionally kicked you in the shin. That's kind of what that's like. And at this point, the correct information is sitting where it's visible. The correct information is sitting where it's visible. So it shouldn't be hard to, like, it's a price. One of the things that is the clearest things to understand. There's also a bit of misinformation going out around about from people that the digital version of Mario Kart World is $69.99 USD and the physical copy is $79.99. No, that's not true. That's not the case. It really is just $80 flat for anyone in the US before taxes. Okay? $80. That's it. Like, it's worse to have somebody. It's worse in some cases to have somebody expect a lower price and go into somewhere and find a higher price than it is for them to expect a higher price and go find a lower price. So, I mean, yeah, so you gotta be careful about that. The next thing is this whole thing with the camera supposedly costing $100. No, on Nintendo's website is $49.99. It is $49.99. It's not $100. And it is not required to be used with the console. You can use a different camera as long as you have a USB-C connection for said camera to plug into your Nintendo Switch 2. You can use any other different USB-C camera. So for Dreamcast guy, you have your own USB-C camera, or you have a USB camera, you could get a USB-C converter, plug your camera into it, and you'd still be able to use it. So you have, for you personally, no additional cost. And no, the camera is not $100. So please stop going around spreading that lie. I mean, for somebody who went ahead and, had their girlfriend purchase their PS5 so that they could go get the PS5 Pro, you'd think you'd be a little bit more frugal about how you spend your money. I mean, there's also the fact that Hori is making a Piranha Plant camera. If you just say you don't want to use the camera that you currently have and you wanted to get a separate one for your Nintendo Switch 2, which is understandable. You might not want to have to use the same camera for both things. Cool, understood, got it. That makes sense to me in that sense. But when you consider the fact that Hori is also making a camera that roughly could be somewhere between, $29.99 and $39.99, depending on how they price it over here, you have another option. Or you could just, look up a cheaper standing camera that you could plug in through the same. You have options. You have choices. You have choices. So please stop propagating this lie that's going to constantly bounce around. And you're telling a mistruth on purpose. At this point, I know you've been corrected on it. You're telling a mistruth on purpose and using it for attention. Please stop doing that, because it kills your credibility. I swear people don't think about that. Like, you're killing your own credibility to do that on purpose. It's different if you don't know. Like, at this point, though, like, it's a lie, so please stop propagating it. That would be nice. Thank you. Alright, the next bit of misinformation that keeps being bounced around is that game key cards are the same thing as game cards. They are not. Game key cards operate similarly to a Blu-ray disc for the Nintendo Switch 2. It has a tiny bit of data on the game card, which is why it's called a game key card. It's really just a key to download the full game. And even then, it really isn't a key itself. It's more like it activates a key within your Switch 2, because you could take it out of your Switch 2 and put it in someone else's Switch 2, and they would then be able to download the game themselves. You just wouldn't be able to play it unless you had the game key card for that system. So in theory, you could let somebody borrow. Let's just use Street Fighter 6 for this. You let somebody borrow Street Fighter 6 from you. You let them borrow it. They play it on their system. They end up downloading the game and they return your card to you after they have borrowed it. Then they eventually decide they're going to buy it themselves. So when they put their game key card in there, it's not going to download a new instance of Street Fighter 6. All it's going to do is just activate the version that they've already downloaded. So again, operates similarly to Blu-rays. Not exactly the same, because Blu-rays can house the majority of a game's data, if not all of it, depending upon the size. Game key cards don't do that. Game cards, however, do house the game. They don't require a download. Now, depending on the game and game size, you may run into a situation where you could have a game card has the majority of the data and then the rest has to be downloaded, which that is what generally happens with Blu-rays and PS5 and Xbox if they don't have all the data on them. But it's either way, it's available. It's an available choice. It's an available option. So let's not keep having this misinformation be spread about. Do I like the fact that you have to download it? No. But this is better than a one-time use code, which you get in the game case anyway, like for Nintendo Switch. Just get the box and get a one-time download code. Like, man, no. At least this way you have a physical representation of the game and you can resell it if you so choose. Okay? Next thing, and since I did correct myself on this earlier, you don't have to purchase the Nintendo Switch 2 upgrade packs to play Nintendo Switch games on your Nintendo Switch 2. You don't have to. You can purchase the upgrade packs for the heightened resolution and the extra features the games have, but you don't have to have them to play those games on your Nintendo Switch 2. So, even if you didn't want to pay the higher prices for Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, the Kirby, and Mario Party Jamboree, if you don't want to pay those higher prices, you can look for deals online for the original Nintendo Switch versions and then just upgrade. Or if you even have an SO, then those upgrades will be included with an SO as long as it's the expansion pack. I thought I had said this in the discussion, so this is going in as a bit of an edit afterwards. But Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are currently the only two games that have their upgrade packs available through Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack. I meant to say that originally, and somehow that got left out, so I'm adding it in here to make sure that people hear it, because I know not everybody's going to be looking at the screen as I'm talking. Alright, thank you. So, if you already have Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack, you can get either a used version of the Switch 1 versions of those games, or you can look around for a deal online to purchase them new for cheaper than their original asking price. You can do that and then put them in your Switch 2 and they will play and have the additional stuff as long as you either have an SO expansion pack and download it, or you purchase it. You can also purchase the codes separately, as they recently just revealed. I kind of knew that was coming. That's why I thought that the game pack, the upgrade pack, would be the code, because they are selling those codes separately at retail. So that's why I thought that the code would be in the box with the Nintendo Switch 1 game card. But if it's just the Nintendo Switch 2 game card in there, those daggone disclaimers are pointless, because you have the name of the game with Nintendo Switch 2 edition on. Like, you have that labeling on there. That's enough of a disclaimer to say, hey, this is a different edition of the game. This one's different than the other one. But I digress. Again, I just feel a little agitated. I put my foot so far in my own mouth with that one. But here we are. So if you really wanted to get around the higher prices, like if you've never had any of these games, you can get around higher pricing. You just gotta be a little bit smart about how you do it. And on top of that, if you have the Nintendo Switch 1 versions of the games, you don't have to get rid of them. You can still use them on a Nintendo Switch, or let a family member borrow it for the Nintendo Switch. So either way, like, you have options and choices about how you go about this. You have choices about how you go about it. That's up to you. Now, if you're somebody who's keeping your Nintendo Switch, you also will be able to use it along with your Nintendo Switch 2 with Game Share. So that's something that's a benefit to you to have. If you decide that you want to keep it, you can have a game that you put in your Switch 2 and game share it to your Nintendo Switch locally. Game Share works online for Nintendo Switch 2 platforms, but it doesn't work online for Nintendo Switch platforms. Okay. I know that's not a part of the misinformation, but I wanted to include that just in case there's somebody who's on the fence about whether or not they want to keep their OG Switch or not. So, again, just letting people know that there are options to use your stuff. And the one last thing that I did cover in my last discussion, I'm pretty sure, Grand Theft Auto 6 is not going to be affected by how Nintendo prices Mario Kart. I repeat again, Grand Theft Auto 6 is not going to, price-wise, is not going to be affected by how Nintendo prices Mario Kart. That's not how that works. Rockstar isn't going to price their game based off of what Nintendo sold theirs at. They're going to price their game based off of what they figure they can sell their game for. I still don't know why people are running with that idea. Oh, Nintendo did this, now Rockstar can charge $100. Okay. If they do, if you don't want to pay that price, don't buy it. I'm going to repeat this again. If you don't want to pay that price, don't buy it. If you don't feel desperate enough that you need to have it, don't buy it. Don't let FOMO beat you. Do not let FOMO beat you. Like, if you do not want to pay these prices, vote with your wallet. Do not pay for them. If you don't deem them to be at that value, any game for that fact of the matter, if you do not deem it to be at the value that they are setting it for, do not purchase it. Do not purchase it. I mean, it works. It obviously works because that's what led Sony to putting their games on PC. Because they constantly drop prices and then they have to make up for it later on. So if you do not want to pay the price, don't pay the price. There's no point going online complaining about it and then buying it. There's no point saying, oh, we're going to boycott. Then the boycott ends up, reaching into your wallet and purchasing the game anyway. Do not purchase games that you do not want. Actually, no. I mean, you shouldn't do that anyway. Do not purchase games that you don't want at those prices. You don't deem it valuable enough, you don't buy it. Stop worrying about being the first there or having it at launch. If you don't want it at that price, you can wait, find deals. There are other ways around it. But purchasing it brand new at full price, if you don't want it, don't do it. That shouldn't be a difficult concept to understand. If you don't want to buy it at that price, don't buy it at that price. I regularly scour for Nintendo cart deals on my own. I mean, I scour for game deals in general on my own. But I haven't paid full price for but one Nintendo Switch game. One. And that was Tears of the Kingdom because I deemed it worth the price. I deemed it worth the price. I didn't even pay that much for I didn't even pay full price for Breath of the Wild. I got Breath of the Wild for like $35-40. And that was with a pack that gave me decals and stickers and stuff that I could put on my Nintendo Switch and my Joy-Cons. So you can get these things at lower prices if you're willing to shop around. And the last thing I want to talk about, because everybody's run with this idea that the Nintendo Switch 2 will be region locked. There is a region locked version of the Switch 2 that will be in Japan and Japan only. They also have the international version that is available in Japan. The international version is the one that everyone else gets. The one that is specifically region locked to Japan is just for Japan. It is specifically for Japan. It doesn't have the ability to play games from different regions in it. It is strictly locked to Japan. That's the only version of it that is region locked as far as I know. But the international version is still available in Japan. It just costs more money. Or will be available in Japan. It just costs more money. So people running with that idea, oh man, my whole library, I'm not going to be able to play it. No, your library will be safe. You'll be able to play your games. You'll be fine. Like, just chill out. You'll be good. You're cool. Don't lose your mind over it. You'll be fine. You'll be able to play your games. You'll be able to take it, like, just in case you have multiple Nintendo Switch online accounts, you will be able to bring them all over to your Switch 2. Like, let's not freak out. And you'll be able to play them. Oh, you know what? There was one other thing I almost completely forgot about. And that is the idea that every Nintendo Switch 2 upgrade is something that's paid for. No, it's not. There are actually free upgrades for select games for Nintendo Switch 2. You have to go to Nintendo's website. They will have a list of them, but there are free upgrades for Nintendo Switch 2 games. Some of them. I wouldn't have expected all of them anyway, because you still have to reprogram them to be able to take advantage of the hardware. So that, again, something people often forget. You have to reprogram the games to be able to take advantage of the hardware. Okay, so some Nintendo Switch games will have free upgrades when they are put inside of a Nintendo Switch 2. Not all of them, but some of them. I mean, technically all of them will get somewhat a little bit of a boost because the Nintendo Switch 2 emulates Nintendo Switch games, which now makes more sense as to why Nintendo was so hardcore to go after Yuzu and why they went ahead and bought out Ryujinx, because they were doing their own emulator for Nintendo Switch on their Nintendo Switch 2 console. And it is their stuff, so it makes sense that they would be a little gung-ho about somebody else doing something that they're going to do with their stuff. But that's a part of it. So your games may see a little bit of a boost in the fact that they will be more stable. If some games have a harder time holding their frame rate, they'd be a little bit more stable. But there are free upgrades that will be applied to certain games so that they kind of have their own Nintendo Switch 2 editions. They're just not paid because the upgrades aren't like extensive, at least. It's just like you just see, hey, you get a frame rate boost and maybe some clearer textures and stuff like that. And maybe a higher resolution. Okay? So not all of the upgrades are paid. Some of them are, where they will add extra features or add in whole new content altogether. Those are the paid ones, which act as more, again, feature upgrades and expansions rather than just, ooh, it looks prettier. Alright, so I think I've talked enough. I think I've gone on enough about these things. This is stuff that you can verify. You can go ahead and check Nintendo's website and get the information. That's where it is. Okay? Okay, so thank you anyone that listened in and you got this far. Keep your eyes and ears up for more stuff from me, and until the next time, enjoy your games and peace out, everybody. Oops, my bad. Let's roll that back. There's one last thing I need to talk about because apparently people think that this is the thing that you are forced to purchase new stuff for your Nintendo Switch 2 when you've already had a Nintendo Switch. So say you had your Joy-Cons, your Pro Controller, and like stuff that you could use with your Nintendo Switch, your third-party stuff you could use with it. Everything outside of a few specific things works with your Nintendo Switch 2. So if you had, say you had Ring Fit Adventure, you can't use the Joy-Con 2s on Ring Fit Adventure, but you can use your Joy-Cons on Ring Fit Adventure. The game still works with the Switch 2, you just have to have your original Joy-Cons, and your Joy-Cons will work with your Switch 2. Your current Pro Controller will work with your Switch 2. If you don't want to go out there and buy another one immediately, I have like 4 Pro Controllers. Like, I have 4 of them. So I wouldn't be rushing to purchase a Pro Controller for the Switch 2 because I already have some. I already have a few. So you can use your older game accessories, your controllers and stuff with your Switch 2. They will connect to it. Now, what we don't know is if the Switch 2 stuff would work backwards with the Switch 1, but I don't think it would because, I mean, even if the buttons are the same, the layout's the same, I just don't think that they would work backwards. I mean, I could be wrong. I just don't see a reason why they would. But if for somebody who may be planning to trade in their original Switch, if you want to keep your Joy-Cons, I would suggest getting like a charging station that you can put them on. Because they will work with your Switch 2. So you don't have to clear out your old Switch inventory. All your stuff works going forward outside of Labo. Labo is the only thing that has been confirmed to not work at all with Nintendo Switch 2, which probably means that you're going to get Nintendo Labo 2 at some point. And all the other stuff, there are some issues with emulation on the Switch 2 for some games, but it's not a lot of them by comparison. Again, but those issues probably getting fixed because they're more than likely working on them. But I just wanted to make sure I got that in there because I completely forgot about that. And that was a thing that people were running with, that none of your old Nintendo Switch stuff works with your Switch 2. That is incorrect. All of your, not all of it, but a good majority of your Nintendo Switch stuff does work with your Switch 2. Alright, now peace out.